and welcome back to Lisa Loves. Today I'm excited to bring to you a new series, something I've been wanting to foray into for quite a while. You probably know me as someone that does mostly horror reviews, that's got a big fan of film and little bits of vlogging here and there, but something I've wanted to do for a while is the world of true crime. And I decided that once per week I will cover a true crime case. We can talk about it in the comments. I will be covering these crimes start to finish. There may be some disturbing content some weeks, but I will put a warning up about that. I may use photographs in some cases of crime scenes if they indeed exist. So if these cases are something you would rather see and watch on the documentary, possibly best not tune in, as I am going to actually discuss them myself in full. I find that true crime is something I listen to on my downtime. I treat a lot of videos on YouTube as podcasts, and I actually listen to them to help me sleep, sick puppy that I am. So these can very much be listened to just when you're getting on with day-to-day things, or if, like me, you have to listen to something dark and disturbing before you go to bed at night. So this first week I'm going to cover the story of Gypsy Rose and Dee Dee Blanchard. This was actually covered in a documentary by the name of Mommy, Dead and Dearest. I thoroughly recommend that to you. And also the Hulu show The Act, starring Patricia Arquette as Dee Dee Blanchard and Joey Keane as Gypsy Rose. Again, thoroughly recommend both. Very, very well worth watching. So our story starts on the 1st of July 1991. And Gypsy Rose is born to 24-year-old Dee Dee Blanchard and her husband Rod Blanchard. The relationship unfortunately doesn't last between Dee Dee and her husband, but they do remain in contact for Gypsy Rose's sake. They are courteous. Now Dee Dee has always had a very tumultuous relationship with her own mother. It hasn't been the closest. They haven't been as you would expect of a mother and daughter. Her mother was very critical. Nothing ever seemed to be good enough for her. She just was always striving to get praise, to get some form of even acceptance from her mother, and I don't think she ever felt she achieved that. When she actually gave birth to Gypsy Rose, she just put all her attention into that child. Her mother did try to get in the way. Her mother criticised her maternal instincts, criticised how she fed her, how often she fed her, how she fussed over her, everything you can think of. And this actually is where the start of the problems began. Dee Dee actually visited a hospital as she had, like a lot of young new mothers, concerns that her baby wasn't feeding properly or there was something wrong with her. And this is the first time that Dee Dee's actually treated with some respect with regards to her caring for her daughter. The surgeon actually, or the doctor she sees, actually uses the expression "mother knows best." And this is just such a form of acceptance from Dee Dee, such a form of recognition of her role as a mother in Gypsy's life. But unfortunately, positive as all this may seem, this starts the ball rolling of the condition Munchausen's via proxy. I'm sure most people watching will know what that is, but just in case you don't, Munchausen's by proxy syndrome is where a caregiver actually induces illness or sickness or injury upon another person in order to gain attention or sympathy from other people. There is a syndrome also called Munchausen syndrome, on which the person will actually inflict the illness, sickness, injury upon themselves for sympathy. But in this case, Dee Dee falls straight into that category, Munchausen by proxy, and this is where the problems for Gypsy Rose began at a very, very young age. So unfortunately, from a very young age, Gypsy Rose is paraded in front of many, many doctors, and her mother travels about to different doctors so that no one really sort of clocks what's happening. There's no one real physician that she sees. She claims that Gypsy Rose has leukemia and even shaves her head to make it seem like she's going through treatment. Muscular dystrophy, so she must use a wheelchair. Asthma, she is fed into her stomach via a stomach tube. And just in case, as she gets older and obviously has the ability to talk, in case Gypsy Rose ever does say something she shouldn't to a doctor, although she's always very much told not to speak. Leave the speaking to her mum, she's not to say anything. She controls her minutely to the tiniest little minutiae. But to cover herself just in case, she says that Gypsy Rose was born premature, she was starved of oxygen, and she has the mental capacity of a 7-year-old. None of these illnesses are real, everything is fabricated, but Gypsy Rose actually grows up feeling that all of these different things are wrong with her. Some she knows there's something not quite right here. Gypsy Rose can actually walk, but no one outside of the house knows that. She must use a wheelchair at all times. Even within the house, when her mother sees her attempt to walk, she makes her get in that wheelchair. They get money from so many charities. They have a house built for them by Habitat for Humanity, the Ronald McDonald Charity, Make-A-Wish Foundation. All of these charities donate money, donate different things for the family. And Gypsy Rose feels that she must keep up this charade. She must do all these things, because if she doesn't, they're going to get into trouble. Her and her mother will both go to prison. Her mother has actually convinced her that she is just as culpable as her mother is, because she has been carrying out this charade. She is the person that isn't ill and is pretending to be. And she continues to shave Gypsy's head right up through her teenage years. She does have an unusual appearance, and it does... You can understand why people would believe the different illnesses. She's very small and slight in frame. Her mother wouldn't pick anything for her to wear that was trendy, or glasses that were sort of like what Gypsy wanted. She very much wanted to make her appear to be much younger than she was. And this is where the next strange thing comes in. Gypsy Rose didn't actually even know what age she was. Gypsy Rose was born in 1991, but the certification that her mother had said she was born in 1995. Then she found certification that claims that she was born in 1993. She did query this from her mother, who she did love, but she was also afraid of. And the mother said it was an administrative error. But in actual fact, Gypsy Rose found out at the age of 18 that she was actually in her early 20s. Her mother had been treating her for many years like she was 12 years old. Things like boys, forget it. Things like watching programs, listening to music she wanted to, forget it. Her mother treated her like a little girl, like a little fragile, sick girl that she was, in order to make all this money, to get the home, to get the attention. Her mother was a pretty sick puppy. So Gypsy Rose went through her teens and early 20s, continuing to undergo a lot of physical and psychological abuse from her mother, by having to pretend to be ill, by having unnecessary procedures and even surgeries inflicted on her by well-meaning, I suppose, physicians, but they moved about so much that a lot of the physicians didn't know what exactly was going on. As she got older, you would swear by seeing photographs that she was maybe 12 or 13. I will insert the photograph here. Gypsy Rose was actually forced by her mother, as she always was when she attended anything like this, to dress up as a Disney princess in a very childlike ball gown and wig. She wanted to dress as something much more edgy. And when she's attending this actual event where she wins an award, I think it was possibly Child of the Year, apologies, don't quote me on that, but she was attending another one of these charity functions. There was something going on there that was kind of like a Comic-Con, and she actually meets a young man dressed as Wolverine. She spends some time with him, and he opens her eyes to a lot of new things, characters. She sees colourful wigs. She imagines reinventing herself as someone else. Mainly Wolverine's love interest, as she has a bit of a thing about this guy. And they spend time together at this Comic-Con, but this opens Gypsy's eyes. She by now is very much interested in males and having a relationship. Her mother's trying to keep her like a child. She appears, sees what's going on, and just loses it, flips out, trails Gypsy Rose out of there as fast as she can, and home they go. So we're getting to the point where the crime happens, folks. I hope you're still with me, but you just need to know this backstory. So, Gypsy Rose manages to get her hands on a laptop. She saves up some money, and she purchases one behind her mother's back without her knowledge, and she meets, prompted actually by a neighbour, a young woman that she was friends with, that she spoke to, that she looked up to a lot, because she was a young woman that Gypsy Rose wanted to be. She was dating boys, she was fashionable, she wore makeup, all these things. And she said, did you ever maybe think about trying a Christian dating site? So Gypsy Rose signs up to a Christian dating site. This is where she meets Nicholas Godejohn. This is 2012. Nicholas did suffer from many years of mental illnesses. It is said that he had dissociative identity disorder, say that when you've had a few drinks, or that he was on the autism spectrum. Anyway, he meets Gypsy, he tells her he has issues. He actually believes that he has a good and an evil side, and his evil side is a 500-year-old vampire by the name of Victor, who enjoys thinking about doing nasty evil things to people and even killing individuals. Gypsy Rose actually opens up to Nicholas and she tells him about her mother, about her life, about the fact she can actually walk. And they actually form this alliance, they form this friendship, which goes on to be a romance, where they actually talk to each other in character. Gypsy Rose refers to herself as Ruby, and of course Nicholas is Victor. And there's photographs that go back and forth, some of which were quite eye-opening, of someone that previously you saw as this little girl, this little innocent girl. She's reached womanhood and she's using her feminine wiles to tempt him in a young Nicholas. Nicholas very much falls in love with Gypsy Rose and he feels like he can save her. They actually concoct a really juvenile plan of Gypsy Rose going to the cinema with her mother to see the new Cinderella movie, and Nicholas is going to be at the same screening. He's going to hold a door open for her, illustrate his politeness. The mother's going to think, oh, what a nice chap, and everything's going to be just dandy-o. But that's not what happens. He does indeed attend the same showing, but Gypsy Rose's mother is having none of it. She wants him nowhere near her. She's quite offensive towards him, shouts at him. But this meeting is the first physical meeting between Gypsy Rose and Nicholas, and she goes out to the toilet mid-performance, and she actually ends up having sex on the bathroom floor with Nicholas. So now the couple have actually met for real, they have a physical contact, and Nicholas wants to save Gypsy, and Gypsy in a way manipulates Nicholas into what happens next. They actually arranged together for Nicholas to travel one night to Gypsy Rose's house, and he is actually going to murder Dee Dee for her. Gypsy Rose sources a knife at a local shopping centre or mall, and Nicholas arrives one night very late, and she has several things waiting for him. She has gloves, she has the knife, and she has duct tape. He tells her to go into the bathroom and cover her ears, and Nicholas proceeds to very brutally stab Dee Dee Blanchard while she's sleeping. Dee Dee awakens, and Gypsy Rose remembers hearing her mother call for her help. She's in the bathroom covering her ears. She didn't come out until the deed was done. Nicholas brutally murdered Dee Dee and later actually admitted to considering for a moment of actually raping her. But instead of going ahead with that, after the murder of her own mother, which she heard, Gypsy Rose and Nicholas proceed to have sex in her bedroom. She takes the $4,000 that her mother has saved and they leave the house together. They travel to a nearby motel which they stay in for a few days while discussing what they're going to do next. So they end up together deciding they need to get rid of the murder weapon, so they mail it. Yes, I said they mailed it to Nicholas's home, to his parents' house. And then they leave the motel to head to his home also. I don't think they actually had any idea at this stage what they intended to do. Gypsy Rose later claimed that she didn't like the idea of her mother lying undiscovered for a long time. She wanted her to be found and receive a proper burial. So she decides to go onto Facebook from Nicholas's home, had the girl not heard of an ISP address, and she posts on her own page, "That bitch is dead." This obviously prompts an outpouring of what the hell is going on. I'll just read some of the replies here for you. What's going on? What? Did your Facebook get hacked? I've never heard you talk like that. Someone's written, "I bet she did," as in got hacked. Sounds like y'all are watching a movie. And then Dee Dee writes at the end, I'm about to swear, I apologise. "I fucking slashed that fat pig and raped her sweet innocent daughter. Her scream was so fucking loud. LOL." That's actually what Gypsy Rose writes on Facebook. This actually prompts the neighbour, the friend of Gypsy Rose and her mother, to become quite concerned. They go over to the house, they find it in complete darkness. Gypsy Rose and her mother's nowhere to be found, but what startles them, what confuses them, is that they can see Gypsy Rose's wheelchair, which to their knowledge she needed all of the time. So why would that be there? Why would the car be in the driveway? As Nicholas and Gypsy Rose had hailed a taxi to leave, the car was still there. Neither of them could drive anyway. They call the police. They say that they're concerned about these posts, which were completely out of character. Everyone thinks that someone has murdered Dee Dee and has taken Gypsy hostage. No one thinks for a second that Gypsy Rose is behind this. They're all feeling so sorry for her. They even set up a GoFundMe page to pay for Dee Dee's funeral and to help find Gypsy Rose. But then things change a little bit. The friend comes forward, her name is Miss Woodmans, and she says that she knows about a strange character that Gypsy has actually been talking to. She thinks that it's possible Gypsy Rose may have been with him. She shows some printouts of things that Gypsy had shown her, and they very quickly managed to track down Nicholas, and also the ISP address where the posts had been made did actually come from the house that he was registered as living in. Q SWAT team descending upon the house and arresting Nicholas and Gypsy. They were held on a $1 million bond until their trials. Now the trials actually came about in November 2018. And all of this is available to watch in the documentary. There may be actual longer trial footage, I'm not sure. Nicholas was actually, after the trial, Gypsy Rose very much turned against Nicholas and they ended up having separate trials, which devastated him. She wanted to blame everything on him. She said that, yes, they talked about it because there was proof of the conversations they'd had in text message where she was arranging this and asking him to kill her mother. She said that she never actually felt that he would really do it. And he said he just wanted to do what she asked. He was trying to save her. So very much, you know, they clashed heads in that way. The culmination, Nicholas ended up getting life for first-degree murder and 25 years for armed criminal action. Gypsy Rose, due to what she had been through, due to her upbringing, her enforced abuse for many years, and the fact that she didn't actually wield the murder weapon, Gypsy Rose received 10 years for second-degree murder. This trial was at November 2018. She was sentenced early 2019. She's actually due for parole on 2024, so not very long now. And Gypsy has actually given interviews, including to Dr. Phil, which should be available somewhere for you to watch, where she goes over the whole thing and what she was thinking and why she did what she did. She's actually now engaged to someone she met while in prison. She met as a pen pal, and her father has come back on the scene with his wife, her stepmother, and they're very much supporting her and feel the father feels culpable because he didn't have much to do with Gypsy as she grew up. Dee Dee moved away so much that he didn't know where they were. Now, whether that's true or not, whether it's a case of a father using that as an excuse, I'm not sure. But he very much is in her life now with his wife. They treat her, the stepmother treats her very much like her own daughter. And things are looking dandy-o for Gypsy Rose when she gets out. She has a fiancé and she has a couple of people, you know, parents to look after her, to look out for her. She's probably going to make a lot of money. So, yeah. It's one of those things, you know, what do you think? You have to feel sorry for what this young girl endured. And when you watch the documentary or the show, if you indeed do, it was harrowing what she went through. Her mother was atrocious. But yeah, Nicholas Gojon is now facing a life in prison. He has obvious mental issues. Whether that's the right thing that's been done there or not is, you know, I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of that. But this story just blew me away. It really intrigued me. I found it has a bit of everything. It's just mind-blowing. So I would, if you're interested, encourage you to watch the documentary or the TV show. But that's the first story I've brought you on the crime series. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did sharing it with you. Let me know below if there's anything you would actually like me to cover. I do hope to grow my channel, as I know there's a lot of people interested in true crime. I would like to do requests if people have them. Do a bit of research about the cases and maybe bring you lesser known cases. So yeah, let me know below in the comments what you think of the idea for the series, if there's anything you'd like me to cover, what you think about Gypsy Rose and Dee Dee's story, and until next time, over and out from Lisa Lives.